So when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to look at, like I knew I was B1 from the jump. Like I've always been, even when I started my business, I knew it was for Black people. Um, but in doing it, I didn't just want to talk about my success, like how I got to be where I was. I wanted to understand the psychology behind it.
Mm,
And so I decided to get my PhD. It's in performance psychology. So it's performance psychology is based on the premise. It used to be called sports psychology because sports athletes have to perform at such a high level, your Serenas and whatnot. It's a mental thing to be able to operate at that high level. And so they called it sports psychology. But then they realized, well, sports people aren't the only people who should operate at a high level. It should CEOs operate at a high level. Police officers run towards they get shot at. Firefighters, they run into burning buildings. Like it's not just sports individuals that should operate at a high level. And so they changed it from sports psychology to performance psychology because it's really about being able to perform at a high level. And what does that mindset look like? And so I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, what about Black people? Like, how come nobody's ever looking at the success of Black people and how we perform? Most dissertations and research is done on why Black businesses fail. The majority of research looks at why Black
wow.
businesses fail. We don't got to do that. We know why. You don't give us no money. You don't give us the tools that we need. You're giving everybody else the resources and the tools and the breaks and whatnot. We know why Black businesses fail, right? We get that. And so I wanted to look at what makes us successful and how can we be successful. And
Mm,
so I did it under the guise of psychological capital. Okay,
mm,
so we know what financial capital is. It's money. Human capital is people. Psychological capital is the mind. It's how we think. And so it's made up of four factors, which is called HERO: hope, efficacy, resilience, and optimism. So that's what psychological capital is. So I looked at success from a subjective framework. So not by how much money you make, even though money was one of my qualifiers, I didn't base it on how society looks at success. So I looked at the success of African American female entrepreneurs by way of psychological capital. So I measured Black women's hope, efficacy, resilience, and optimism based on how successful they were in their business. And I looked at it from a subjective standpoint. And so subjective means, why did you become an entrepreneur? Was it to take your kids to school? Was it so that you don't have to work for anybody else? Was it because we become entrepreneurs for different things, racism in your work environment, whatever the case might be. And so what we were able to find out was hope, efficacy, and resilience rated very high. People who are hopeful, people who are self-efficacious, meaning they can rely on themselves to get up and be driven, and people who are resilient operated and or saw themselves as successful. And so one of the reasons why I looked at psychological capital is because hope, efficacy, resilience, and optimism are malleable, which means you can teach them. I can literally teach a Black person to have hope, to be resilient, to have self-efficacy, and to be optimism. And if I can do that, then I can teach you how to be successful. It's in the mind. So that's what I study. I did, again, as a business coach and a strategist, I can tell you about me all day, but that's not going to help me help you. But if I can understand how to help you perform at a high level, then I can change stereotypes. I can help us in our businesses. I can help you get out of your mind and your business. I can help you believe that you should make six figures. I can help you to believe that you can have $1 million, because a lot of times we don't think it, we don't believe it because we haven't seen it in our family. We haven't seen
mm.
anybody else do it. We see somebody on TV do it because we celebrate celebrities, but we don't celebrate our cousin Pookie and them who started their little candle business over here. So that's
Mm.
a psychological thing.
Wow, that's really powerful. So, hero, hope, efficacy, resilience, and optimism. And that really makes sense.